All right. Welcome to the Values Based Mindset Experience. I am your faithful host, Mike Garrison, and today's guest is Brent Pohlman. He is from the fine state of Nebraska, which, just to let you know when this is recorded, will be the scene of a grave massacre, noon Eastern time on Saturday morning, when the world's greatest college football team, the Ohio State University. Actually, is the game in Nebraska or is it in Ohio State?
It's at Ohio State too.
Okay,
Thank you,
well,
Mike, for bringing that up.
well,
Yeah.
hey, I do like your coach. I like Scott Frost,
Okay.
right? Every day except Saturday. So, like,
So, it, Big Ten football's back. What can I say? I'm just
yes, it
glad
is.
it's back. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
As I inform my wife, as a values-based mindset practitioner, as I inform my wife, I am not available as a father, as a husband, as a human being from 11:30 a.m. Eastern to at least 3:30 p.m. Eastern. I will be eating jalapeno poppers, and I will be watching church. No, just kidding. Like with your family, both sides of your family's from Ohio.
Oh gosh. Yeah. There you
Right.
go.
I come by it honest. So
Ohio, yeah, and Ohio State fans, there's nothing like them. I will say that too.
that's
They're
right. Winners.
super passionate. Yes, super passionate. And they have every reason to be.
Yeah.
I used to live in Michigan. Oh gosh, I mean, I remember that rivalry.
Yeah.
They used to kick Michigan's butt. They still do. I
You know
don't
we
think.
do you know what we call them? That state up north.
Yeah, exactly.
But I've
So
been to Ann Arbor. I have been to Ann Arbor. I've stayed in a hotel in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I have eaten there to show that I am a man with an open heart. Then I left, and I've never been back. So unless it's to watch Ohio State murder Michigan, go John Harbaugh. I love him. Great coach. They should make him a lifetime coach. So anyway, how do we get on football? Oh wait, Nebraska, Ohio State. So Brent, would you mind introducing yourself to the audience? Tell them about who you are, the company that you run.
okay, sure, Mike. Yeah, so my name is Brent, and I'm CEO of Midwest Laboratories. I've taken over from my father. He started the company in '75, and today we have 213 employees. We do all types of testing. Everything but blood is what I pretty much tell people: food, water, soil, plants, um, biofuels, wastewater. Again, everything but blood. And it's grown into a nice company. And my objective is, again, to continue that growth. I treat it like a startup. And I am an entrepreneur at heart. And I just love seeing things grow and build. I just love building and growing things. So that's really who I'm about. And I want to take that company that I feel fortunate to lead such a great company that my dad started, and again, grow it. I just want to grow it. And we'll kind of talk more, I'm sure, as we go into this conversation about that. But that's a little bit of an overview of who I am and what I do right now.
That's awesome. And like, I want you to share your version of how we met, but I'm going to share mine. Like, Brent and I met through LinkedIn. I somehow was fortunate enough to come across one of your posts, and I was like, wow, this guy's great, right? And then now I watch him every day. I try and like every single one. Sometimes I forget, but that's how and Brent and I just started. Like, I commented on one of your posts. I think you commented on one of mine, and then it's culminated to where I feel like this is the beginning of a really good friendship, encouraging.
Yeah. And I would say the thing that I think when I started to look at the work that you do, Mike, it really started with that whole self-awareness. And I really didn't discover that till a couple of years ago. And that's what you're teaching through your value-based um, organization and who you work with. And I was really attracted to that. And it's so critical. That whole piece is so critical if you're going to be an effective leader. So kudos to you and what you're building too, as well, through that program.
Yeah, I mean, full disclosure, not a surprise to you, but for me, it's just an evolution of my faith, you know, because I was really struck at a moment in time. Was I living out my values? Like, did I even really understand them, and how did it all work? And quite frankly, that particular period of time really sucked, right? Because I was kind of lost. But out of that came some great peace and some great certainty. So it's cool. So let's talk about values. Brent, I know you've got them. What if you were going to say, look at your values, and you don't have to say this is the most, but what's one of your biggest values?
Well, I say it, I said it all my life, people first, but did I really truly believe that? Was that in my heart? And I really found a connection through that again, a few years ago. It took a real terrible thing to happen. And obviously my mom passing away was a terrible thing that happened from cancer. But I really had to look inside my heart and just see, how do I put people first? Because I saw my mom do it through prayer and through her faith. And then and you kind of alluded to that, that faith is the top value in my life. I have to be, if I'm not connected with God, I mean, it all starts there. I can't be effective as a person. And so when my mom passed away, I just made that decision that I was going to be intentional with my faith. And I didn't know what that looked like at the time. And I didn't know how I just kept praying, because I would go through my mom's prayer journals, and she prayed for these people and these people. And I saw all the work that she was doing through prayers. And I saw how that really, there were a lot of good things that came about because of that. So I started to pray, and then I wanted to get connected. You have to get connected with people. You can't do this by yourself in a room.
Right.
And you got to be with other people. And the way I was on social media maybe 10 years ago, and I was doing it for marketing, or I was doing it for this, but I really didn't have there was no value there. I wouldn't say it wasn't a deep value. It was maybe some knowledge, a nugget here, a nugget there that people would grasp onto, but I really wanted something deeper. And the only way, again, it was going to be effective was through the heart. So I got really more into the word, and then I had to be around people. And what I found was through LinkedIn, through videos, I wanted to connect somehow. And I did actually start with marketing, which was kind of funny. If you ever look at the first few ones I did. And then it just kind of led to this. People were looking for more. I was looking for more. And I started connecting, and I found a really solid core in the Omaha, Nebraska area. And I started going to coffee with these people, and I found this like hunger for people to be around others with similar values, and just relying on things that are at a deeper level. And we talk a little bit of business, but it was more about, how do I become a more effective person? How do I help others? How can I be there for others? But also, how do I take care of myself? And if you don't take care of yourself, it doesn't matter. And that's what that whole process led me to about 3 years ago was, oh gosh, I was going downhill. I was doing these things, but I wasn't taking care of myself. And if you're not good to yourself, you cannot be on your A game for others. What it really taught me.
Absolutely.
So, and part of that whole self-awareness was getting into a routine. So every day, I have to get out, I have to go for a run, a walk, whatever. I have to get outside, no matter where I'm at.
Headband.
I have to, and the headband. Yeah, I have more headbands. My wife gives me a hard time about it, but I love the headbands. I just don't, it's always been something I just love to.
It's your head.
Exactly. And so I put my headband on, and I just go out, and for a couple minutes, I focus on some type of, I pray, focus on some type of theme, knowledge, prayer, topic, something. And then I just ask God for guidance, and I talk about it for a couple minutes. And it's just amazing, the power of those words, God speaking through me. It's not, I go back and I listen to myself, and I said, did I really say that? I do that all the time, because I cannot remember what I just said. And,
Yeah.
and to some people that sounds crazy. I don't rehearse it. You've seen mistakes. I say the wrong word every once in a while, or I say something kind of goofy, but that's okay. We're all, that shows we're human. And people relate to that. And then through that, I've had coffee with a number of people. And again, through those relationships, it's all about relationship building. And you have to, if you build those strong relationships, I just think that that's far more valuable. I learn more through people than I do books.
Mm-hmm.
So, if the more I'm around people, the more I take a little bit here or there, because they're active, they're doing those things. And that's the exciting part of this, the whole thing. So, oh yeah, I get teased a lot about the headbands and all that, but you know what? It's just who I am, and I have to do that every morning. It doesn't work doing it in the evening. It doesn't work during the day. I have to do it every morning as part of a routine, and that's so critical for me.
And that's huge, and I will say, like, it's not like you're going out to a nice restaurant with your wife wearing a headband. You're and like I've seen, God, I mean, it's got to be over 100 that I've seen, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
you're out there in Nebraska weather, brother. like this ain't no SoCal 75-degree. Like, I have seen some inclement, frigid weather, my friend, in these videos of yours.
Yeah, and I think COVID really emphasized. I used to go to the gym and then I'd come back, and now I don't. I just don't go to the gym. Just the long reasons for that, but I just like being outdoors in the air. Just I don't. It doesn't matter how cold it is. I'll just again. I just have to do that at least 30 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes.
Yeah, that's one of my. I used to call them non-negotiables, but it always gets grammar checked by the grammar police. And so, but I call them essentials, and it's kind of an homage to Greg McEwen, the great book Essentialism. And one of my essentials is 30 minutes of exercise every day. And I don't always get it done in the morning because at 5 a.m. I have a really nice home gym, so I have friends that come over and work out. So I don't always get that done early in the morning. Sometimes it's a little bit later, but I can look at days where I didn't exercise and I could have, and those are never good days. Those are never good days, And so routine, it sounds like routine, discipline is another one of your values. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And part of that routine, and again, it's structure. For me, and you may laugh at this, but it really comes down to three words: people, process, and technology. People first. I have to be around people. I do much better that way. I don't like to work from home. I don't like to do those things. That's not who I am. I will, but I don't like to. But process. You've got to have a strong process. Every day I have to write down. If I don't write it, it's not going to happen. I have to write down what I'm grateful for. I have to write down my top 3 items. I even write down, I learned this, what was I uncomfortable about yesterday?
Ooh.
When I write that down, what was I uncomfortable about yesterday? I didn't realize the power of that, because it makes me reflect on what happened yesterday. And then usually I address that within the week and within the next few days. It's amazing to go back and look and see what I wrote down, what I was uncomfortable with, and what did I do to resolve that. And that can be personal or business, but it's huge. It's huge.
Yeah. So it's one of the things that I'm really passionate about in my my ministry, my experience, all that kind of stuff, is comfort is death. Mm-hmm. I mean, comfort is death. And like, as a person of faith, comfort is not part of my faith. Peace, clarity, adversity, suffering, those are parts of my faith experience and my faith walk. And when you look at business, I think, and this, I'm taking you someplace with this. Mm-hmm. What I see so much is people don't understand just how unbelievably fortunate we are in the United States. Like, the things that we complain about compared to most of the people that currently live around the world, let alone 50 years ago, our parents could never have dreamed of the climate control we have. Like, when I was growing up, when you were growing up, did every house have air conditioning? And schools didn't have air conditioning. No. So what comfort does for human beings, in my experience, and this, values are not restricted to Christianity. Like, that's what I believe is true, but values work everywhere because that's the human experience. What I see happen with values is people, when they're comfortable, learn to be average. and that's okay. Like you're going to have bad days. You're going to have even bad seasons, like with your mom dying, my dad dying. There's going to be seasons where we're not a high performer necessarily. But if you don't establish a standard of excellence and then train, not just try, but train and prepare to be excellent, you're not going to be able to be excellent when it's most required.
Oh, I could not agree more. And to show you that, I would say most of my career, I wish someone would have told me early on, I was so dang reactive, so reactive.
Right.
Almost to a point where I was fighting everything. I had no routine, so I had no way of managing this stress. And ultimately, there was one day at work, this was in 2007, and I was literally just falling asleep at my desk, and I knew something was wrong, and half my body was going out, and I like, okay, something's not right here. And I went home that night, and I told my wife, I said, I'm checking myself into the hospital, and I said, something's not right. And I had all the tests. And they said, no, there's nothing wrong. We're going to send you home. You can do a stress test on the treadmill and we'll send you home. I said, no, something's wrong. Something is not right. Because we know our bodies better than anybody. And I said, well, we can go up and see if there's something wrong. But I said, yes, you need to do that. And they did. And there was an artery that was 98% blocked. And I had a stent put in, and stent, no heart attack, but I knew something wasn't. That's how bad the stress had gotten to me. That's because I was in no routine. And even after that, I still wasn't in a routine. I had no way of taking care of myself, and I still let stress bother me. I was so reactive. Today, I use that phrase all the time. Even in emails or something, I'll say, you know what? That thing that you just sent, I'm just uncomfortable with that. And when you say the word uncomfortable, people kind of perk up. Like, what's that mean? But I used to say, oh, crap, or what is this? Or I used to just be really short with questions. But when you say, you know what, I'm a little uncomfortable, it just takes the pressure off. And then they ask. Actually, people are more willing. Well, why is he uncomfortable? What's going on?
Yeah, you humanize it as opposed to dehumanize it.
But that took me years to figure that out. I wish I would have known that much sooner. But that's the difference. To your point, that's the difference. We can be proactive and not so much reactive. And
yeah. Have you ever heard of Tim Kite or Brian Kite?
Mm-hmm.
The E plus R equals O, event plus response equals outcome. I'll never forget, like Tim Kite is the dad, Brian's the son. And Tim developed it as part of a Christian training. And I had the great experience of being taught by him at a Christian men's retreat above a Irish pub. It was surreal. It was so crazy because at one point we started singing, and like you could hear the silence below us at the pub. And when we walked out, Brent, like nobody wanted to look at us, but you could tell who are those people? And we're Anglicans. We're like, hey, we'll be back later. It's okay. But it was so funny. But he taught us that event plus response equals outcome. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was one of the most solidly sourced, thousands of years of research formulas ever seen. And that's what you're talking about, is like, we're not in charge of all the events.
Right.
And we're certainly not in charge of the outcomes. Like, we're going to die. Mm-hmm. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
But the response is all we're in charge of. And one of my clients was really beating himself up this morning. He's like, oh, I didn't respond really well. I'm like, okay. Like, since you didn't like how you responded, what is your response going to be now?
Right.
Because that's the thing that we don't understand. As human beings, that's what makes us really unique. That we do have a soul, that we are conscious, and we can choose to respond differently than just from our flesh, just from instinct and things like that. Like if I scare people, they're going to jump, right? But then they make a choice. Like if I scare my wife, she'll jump and scream, and then her response will be to smack me.
Yeah, exactly. But I think you hit on a good point too there. We need people to challenge us. And when I say that, get us to think just a little bit differently. One of the things, my Christian faith is so important to me. This person showed me the Passion Translation. I'd
Mhm.
never heard of it. The Passion Translation, everything, and it doesn't have all the books of the Bible, but it has most of them. But
Mhm.
it comes alive in those verses that it really relates more to the heart and to the feelings and emotions. And at first I read, I was like, come on, this is, I was a little uncomfortable. I was like, I'm going to just use the same Bible I've used all the time. But then when I really got into it, it's like, wow, yeah, I've read this verse 100 times, but I didn't realize it comes alive with these,
So
with
here's
this.
my favorite Bible currently, the ESV.
Okay.
I call it the extra special version.
See, exactly. I mean, just little things. I mean, that's one, but even at work, someone will say, have you ever thought of this? If we're so reactive, we never hear those voices. It's amazing now. If you're willing to just say, well, I'm a little uncomfortable. No, don't do that. Or let me think about that. And that's my other word, hey, let me think about that for a day. I just need to process this because I'm not ready right away. I'm like, first reaction I've learned is sometimes negative, and you just got to say, okay, I'm going to think about that for a day. And it's amazing, just that little bit of going through it and thinking, oh yeah, that makes
It's so
sense.
tough. It's so tough. I mean, right now in the States, everybody wants to pigeonhole everyone else. So, oh,
Yes.
you're a liberal.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a conservative. You're a Democrat. You're a Republican. Like I did a post today. I don't post a lot to Facebook because I just don't enjoy the platform anymore. But my
Yeah.
post was people that vote for Harris Biden are not evil. People that vote for Trump Pence are not evil. Like, I don't care who you voted for. I don't care why you voted. I don't care if you voted. I just care if you're a human being.
Exactly.
Right?
And we're so far away from that right now, to your point, and everything's reactive. It's like, gosh, did you hear the latest on this?
Well,
I
it's
don't care.
comfortable.
Oh, well.
But think about it, super comfortable to just demonize another human
Oh,
being and
yeah.
just say, "Oh, you're that way." It's super easy. And like I was telling you when we were getting ready for the podcast, Brent and I were talking. I shared with him, like, one of my very best friends and I were having a pretty ferocious but loving argument about what constitutes someone being a minister or pastor in Christianity, right? And it was pretty fierce because we're really comfortable with each other and we both came to Christ a lot later in life. So the default patterns are sometimes a little coarse, but like in love, we were having an extraordinarily passionate and in-depth conversation about a lot of different things. And the reason that was possible was because we're both values based
Mm-hmm.
and we don't have exactly the same values. And yet one of the core values we have is respect,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like
Exactly.
respect never means agreement.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it doesn't. No. And I think again, that word respect is so critical right now. And that's what really God's message is all about. It's love your neighbor as yourself. And I mean, that's it. That's all you need to do. Show respect for people. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really the whole bottom line for all this stuff that's out there right now.
Well,
We
it's
make
always
it,
been like that.
yeah.
I mean, if we really, like, I always find it interesting, like people that are so upset about the media nowadays. I'm like, have you ever heard of yellow journalism? Like, and yellow journalism is from in the 1800s, late 1800s. I mean, the papers were horrible. They would like post pictures of hanging people, and I mean, it was, and they were like, if you're a Republican or a conservative, you think the New York Times is awful, like just go back in time. Just go back in time.
Yeah.
It's like this is the human condition. The human condition, when we don't connect with our values in an intentional way, in a proactive way, all of a sudden I think we are more heavily influenced by other people. And like I think one of the most horrible things that happens is you lose your sense of self when you don't know what you believe, why you believe it, and when you can't respect and engage with other people productively about theirs. Like, I think that we lose our sense of who we are because at that point, when you've decided this is like everyone else is wrong, I'm right, everyone else is a caricature, I think that you deny humanity when you do that. So I want to shift into something.
Okay.
And this is for people, whether you're don't have a belief system, whether you're a follower of the Stoics, whether like whatever, if you're a Christian or you're agnostic and atheist, we've all got values and we can all love each other around that, our own unique human being. The real challenge is how do you apply this, right? And I think you've come through some of them. Clearly, one of the ways that you apply this is you have a strategy for how you react when you're engaging with other people, and you have a strategy for how you prepare yourself to design and live your life. Let's talk about the realities of other people having conflict with you when you are freely expressing and talking about what you believe. I'm sure it's always been, everyone's always welcomed your message.
No, and again, I think you've hit on some of the points. I don't push it. I don't push my faith on anybody. I don't. I don't. I just say what I pray. I say what I think the message should be. I let people interpret it, and then they decide if they want to like it or not. It's similar to what we do at work. In the front of our building, as you walk through the main door, it says, "How can we pray for you?" That's all it says. You can write something if you feel led that you want somebody to pray for you. If you don't have to. I've never made a big deal about that. I didn't have some like grand opening of this wall that's prayer wall. I didn't, I just said, we're going to put it out there.
You didn't ask every employee if they're a Christian?
Exactly. No, exactly. Exactly. Even a few months ago when all the racial tensions, I didn't understand. I didn't understand what all the deep feelings. So I met with minorities in my office. I said, I don't understand. What's the bit, how is this hurting you? Or what's the impact? Because I could see people crying. I could see people, and I really took the time to understand that this particular person, her last name, she goes, I can't trace my genealogy because we got it from a slave master. Like, oh, geez. Okay. And I don't understand that. Right. Now it makes sense why that's painful. I had another person tell me because I'm silent and I'm not speaking up and not putting a statement out there that I'm a racist. Mm-hmm. I said, dude, your message, that message is making me so uncomfortable. Why do you think that? Well, he was talking about his own people being Hispanics who had been persecuted in Mexico, and they were not taking the time to really voice their feelings and concerns of all this years of hatred and years of punishment. Okay, that makes sense. But when you tell it to me, in my framework, that made no sense to me when you said you're silent, so you must be a racist. So again, I think it's just coming to an understanding of where people are at with these different topics and issues. But once you have that, and I think people just want to be heard, honestly. Yeah. When they're heard, then they know that you took the time that, oh, he took the time. Do I have a policy in place from a few months ago? No, we don't. We're going to work on that probably the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. Even though the message to me is very simple. It's about respect and love for each other. And I'm going to still continue to build on that message. But I think people want to be heard. And I think that's where I come from, even with the videos. People just want to be heard or be noticed or just be appreciated. And today it's just so hard. That's just counterculture today, I think, so much.
I think Brent, I think you only really know you're a human being when you share your feelings with somebody else and you feel like they cared about it. Otherwise, you're just an animal.
Absolutely. If I have right now, I have a checklist. Mike is this. Mike is just like you were saying earlier. Mike is this. Then what have I done? I've just dehumanized the whole relationship right there, and I put you in some type of box and some type of information here.
And that really is dehumanizing because we are, by design, like I'm not quite sure God's plan, and I may never know, even if I'm in heaven, right? Like I may just not worry about it at that point. I suspect, knowing me, I'll be like, all right, I'm glad to be here. I have no questions. I'm just glad, right? But I that's what scares me the most, and that's why I'm so passionate about this podcast, about the movement that I'm trying to create. Is I really, instead of saying everyone has to be tolerant and everyone has to listen to everyone else, I want everyone else to really go inside themselves and do the hard work of examining what makes them a human being, and then writing that down, meditating upon it, creating systems around it. Because I I look back at some of my greatest successes and I'm nauseous,
Mm-hmm.
because those successes were not based on my values. Or
Right.
should I say, when I look back at what my values were then, I'm not happy.
Uh, yes, I can totally relate. Do you think, I can say this, I can only talk for myself, but I worked so damn hard my whole life in corporate America. I mean, to get to this, to get to this, to achieve this, to do this. To your point, looking back, was it all worth it?
No.
Absolutely not. No. The only time it was worth it was when I finally, as you said, discovered who I am and started to really figure out, oh, I'm this person. Oh, if I want people to, if I want to get along with other people, or I want people to, if I'm going to lead other people, I better dang well know more about myself and be more self-aware than I am, because I can't keep working hard, going down a path, working hard and beating myself up. I'll never be able to. It's not worth it. It is. To your point, it's just not worth it.
Well, and it's like what we think success is so fragile. I'll tell you the greatest, possibly one of the three biggest decisions I ever made in my life was when at my rock bottom, when I was I managed to stop being suicidal, but we were living in another city. We're in Roanoke now, God's country, and we were living outside of Richmond, and another business venture of mine was cratering. Just wasn't, like, it was okay, but it wasn't. I was still living in sorrow over other failures I made. And the greatest decision I ever made was to go take a job as a bank teller, right? Because my wife was so tired, so stressed out. And she's like, I need you to get a job. This is a guy who hasn't had a job in decades. I need you to go get a job and make consistent money, because I can't, like, and she goes, and I said, all right, I'll go get a job. I'm going to do it for a year. I'm going to find a job that makes enough money. And it was a little bit better than a bank teller. I was a financial specialist. So I was a highly compensated bank teller. But I ended up
Yeah.
working in a bank in a grocery store on the line as, I mean, basically was a bank teller. And it was humiliating for me. Like my old flesh, it was
Mm-hmm.
humiliating, Brent, because I wasn't making that much money, but I was making money consistently. I wasn't in charge of my schedule. I had to stay on the line. I wasn't using my talents. I wasn't following my passion. But that was the start of the beginning for me, because am I going to die to self? Ephesians 5, surrender all as Christ surrendered. Like, was I going to be the kind of husband that would surrender my pride for my wife's happiness and my wife's security? And it was awful. And like literally a couple of days after the year was out, I was doing something better. But I stuck it out, and like, it's one of the greatest experiences of my life. I mean, there were good people, but I know that I can do what it takes.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I can, like, one of the people that showed up on the line did some Googling on me and was like, hey, you're a best-selling author. And I was like, that was a terrible day, Brent. They thought it was this great conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I just want to go. I
Yeah.
just, but that's what you're talking about. Is like, there are
Yeah.
these pivotal moments where you have to make decisions that literally alter the trajectory of your peace, not happiness, but your peace.
Right. Right. Uh, no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And to find that again, I think I can just I can pinpoint back to certain key people in my life, or certain instances that really God used those people for whatever reason at the moment of that time, I was there, and I had to hear that message, or I had to be in that moment right there in order to move forward. Because to your point, I think all of us, to some point, we hit a rock bottom, and man, you can make, even at rock bottom, you could even still go even lower.
Yeah,
And
there's a shovel at the bottom.
Oh, it is. It is. It's, I'm just amazed at all the people and what they've overcome. And once you've overcome one thing, then to your point, you can start to gain some. I don't know what I'm not thinking the right word, but strength through that process. And you say, I can do this more. I can do, yeah. And you start to build up that endurance, and and you still have humility along the way. You're still going to make mistakes, but you need those things. You do need to celebrate successes along the way. You do need to write. For me, I got to write things down, or I'm going to forget. I'm such a futuristic, strategic person. I forget so many things and that's gotten me in trouble a lot. But I didn't realize that till, again, a few years ago, that I thought so much in the future, so much strategically, that I was missing out in the here and now. And thankfully, my wife just said, "Hey, come back here. You need to come back a couple of years or whatever. We're right here. Here's the family dinner. You just need to be present right now. I'm just asking you to spend some time here with."
No cell phones at dinner.
Oh, exactly. So, so it is. But again, we have people like that who bring us back, who do those checks and balances, and you need those in your life if you're going to be effective. Because if it isn't working at home, that. I mean, forget it. It's not going to work.
Yeah. Well, it's always interesting. It's like, there isn't anyone in my life that's more important than my wife. And there's also no one else I take more for granted than my wife, period. Yeah. And to her credit, when people meet both of us and get to know her, there's always ends up being this moment where they look at her, they look at me, and they're like, I'm like, nah, don't ask. I said, like, if you ask me how I know Christ is real, this woman has been married to me for 27 years.
Exactly.
And clearly it worked out. And she still thinks it was a good deal. God exists.
That's so funny, because next week we're going to celebrate 26. So I'm really, yeah. So very similar. Yeah, exactly.
It's all right, young man. It's all right, young man.
Like, you got a year on me.
Nothing personal, but I hope you never catch me.
Yes. I was waiting for that.
Yeah, but no, it's good. So let's talk about values-based. Like, so you've got kids, right? How many children do you have?
5.
Well done. Like, you missed a couple of days of the week. Right? You get, well done. So we haven't had a parent on with that many children yet. So we've talked about business and how you do. How do you try and help your children develop a values-based worldview, or, as I say, mindset?
That's a great question.
I know it's not easy.
No, my kids could not be more different. My 5 could not be more different. I think I have all the vocations covered. My oldest is studying to be an attorney. My second is a dancer. My third is in the seminary becoming a priest. Fourth one is a marketing person, and fifth one's a teacher. So, I mean,
wow, they're
all totally different. But I think
holidays are awesome at your place.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a lot, but they're all close in age too, 16 months apart. And I would just say the biggest part there, again, is their faith. And thankfully, my wife and I have been, I would say, examples. We were probably those mean parents that made our kids go to church up until they're through high school. I mean, we just didn't give them the choice, but we said, we're going to be a family. Because everything's trying to tear the family apart today.
Oh, yeah.
But we just said, every Sunday, we are a family. And when you come home, they know we're family. Once in a while they'll go off, hey, I'll go this time or this time. But by and large, we just preach the whole thing that you're family. We're family together. We have to stay together through thick or thin. And whether we get into fights, whether whatever, we're going to stay together. And I just think that message is being lost today. Everyone wants to turn their kids loose by the time they're 10. But once you put a phone in their hands, yeah, exactly. I was just gonna. Once you put a phone in their hands, they can be an adult, and it's sad to watch this. I mean, it is.
Well, I am so glad these stupid things didn't exist when I was younger, because the research is really terrifying when you look at what happens to an underdeveloped brain. Yeah. And you add in the addiction, the dopamine that these things do. Like, it's bad enough when you add it into a 50-year-old brain.
I was going to say, exactly, for myself, I know. Yeah, when your wife says, can you just not carry that phone around all the time?
It's challenging. Like, the hardest thing for me, so one of my values-based mindset experience is about tracking, being proactive, having a plan. Because everybody talks about how you're supposed to be, and I'm like, that's cool. Like, let's figure out who you are, and then let's track and measure, holding the standard of excellence in front of us, and let's abandon good and let's go for great, right? Let's do what we can. Yeah. And so one of my things, and this is like humiliating to a certain extent, but I'll share it just to hopefully inspire somebody else. My goal up through December 31st of 2020 is every single day to have a non-distracted one-on-one conversation with my wife for 5 minutes. I mean, that takes,
it's a lot.
That takes, it's a lot easier for her, right? Mm-hmm. I'm the problem. I'm the selfish, insert expletive of choice. That's me, but it's, it's really hurtful and humbling. Like, my wife has wanted me to talk to her for years, and I have ignored her. And I wasn't even aware of it. I was so selfish. I wasn't even aware what I was doing. And now, like, she's open to it, but it's like, I was talking to her this morning, and like, I asked dumb questions because I'm just trying to figure out how to have a conversation once a day. Like, on the weekends, it's easier, but during the week. And so I was like, so what's your favorite song? And like, she played with me on that, and we went through it. And then I'm like, so what's your favorite, dessert? And she's like, what are you doing? Like, are you trying to get your 5 minutes? I'm like, we hit that a couple of minutes ago. I said, baby, I'm just trying to be someone that cherishes you. I know I'm horrible at it. And like, just please. She's like, okay, but like, isn't that horrible?
Oh, it is crazy. The how we treat, how I have too, my whole life. I mean, my brain never shuts off. Maybe you're like that. It's just, that's such a terrible thing. Finally, you just go, okay, I'm just going to turn it off. And, but it's 10 minutes. I think that's a great goal to have. 5 minutes.
I'm not like, don't push me too far.
And actually, even for that 5 minutes, it's actually taking something like, we have to find something in common, because after having 5 kids and raising them, and you're just going 100 miles an hour, and then all the kids are gone out of the house. And then we actually had 4 months together before COVID, and then all the kids came back. Yeah. But 4 months, we were like, who are you? Seriously, right? It was that night. And you're going to laugh, but I didn't know my wife really loved Shark Tank. That was the thing that really kind of brought us together, was Shark Tank.
My wife does too.
And so we just started watching that together, even at, I didn't care what it was going to take. For 30 minutes, I was going to watch it, even whatever that was, because I knew that was so critical for her, that she wanted this time together, and we had to find something to connect. Now, she may go watch the British Baking.
Hey, that's a good show. That's what my wife and I do.
We watch that. Yeah, I can't get into that. I don't know. That one, I have a hard time. I don't know. I think it's the failure when they make those big things, and then at the end, like, someone fails. It's like, oh gosh. Oh,
I like that. Crash and burn, baby.
But you see, I know it sounds silly, but you got to start with those things. I think if I didn't start with those things, once the kids came back, it was so funny. We'd say, "What are you guys doing?" Well, we're watching our show. What we need to talk to you guys. We just finally reconnected. It was great. I mean, yeah. So
So one last question, right?
yeah.
Well, one a question, and I know that you and I have talked a little bit about identity. We talked about that when you and I were talking, I think 2 weeks ago. What role do you see a person's concept of identity play in understanding their values?
Well, in order for your values to really mean something, and for me, my identity, I got this again through my faith was I did not. If you look at in the Bible, how many times the word heart is mentioned,
Mhm.
it is mentioned over and over everywhere. So I focused real. My identity was going to be in my heart because my heart was pretty closed. It was not open. It was pick and choose what I wanted to put in there. And then slowly I really opened it. And then even a week ago, someone challenged me and says, have you ever thought of the heart of Jesus? And it's like, oh, geez, okay. And she sent me this study. And so I did. I started, and that's where last week I've kind of talked about that. But it's taking those things, starting with something that you can identify with. Everyone has a heart and what's in that. And then I want to put good things in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I know by putting good things in my heart, that's where I'll start to grow. And I talked about heart for the last 3 years, but I don't think it didn't resonate to your point. Something's got to really resonate in as far as to make it a value. We can be all lip service, and we know those people. I was one of those people for a long time. I could
Yes.
I could name the 5 things. I could memorize this
Oh yeah.
checklist. I was a good checklist person. I mean, I did this. But when you've got a value, so when things come up like diversity and the Chamber of Commerce is after you say, hey, you're CEO, man, you got to sign this. You're going to do these 12 things so we can say yes. I said, no, you know what? Because it's not a checkbox item. This is much more than a checkbox item. And when you can finally say that, and then it's something that's really down in here, that's something you believe, and you're going to do more. And to your point, you're going to have a relationship with a person, or you're going to develop a relationship. It's not a checkbox item anymore. So
Yeah. There's nothing worse. I always, when I'm coaching with clients, and then we're about to launch a private community, a network community, where people can be about executing on values. I think there's lots of stuff out there that teaches you values, but our focus is on, okay, you get connected. What do you do with it? I always tell my clients this, and I want to get your thoughts on it.
okay.
Like, at the end of the day, I think the greatest expression that somebody can have, one of the greatest expressions of humanity, is to pick a path with no guarantee of success, but knowing that that path absolutely is what you believe in. It is your values, not just like something you want, but it's your values. And I always say the benefit to that of designing a life around values is even if you go down that road and you don't get the results that you hoped for, you'll know that you did everything you could according to what you most believed. And it's an awful lot easier to accept the reality that we're not in charge when you were at least expressing who you are.
I think you summed up pretty much where I'm at with my values. I have gotten to a point. I'm working on my succession plan. Now I don't know if it's going to be one of my kids, whatever, whoever. But
Probably not the dancer.
But my number
Or the
2,
priest.
right? Exactly. But my number 2, who's working with me today, I finally found a person where the two of us, I've never worked with another person anywhere where we pray for each other all the time. When I say, how's your day going to be today? Oh, it sounds like you're going to have some tough things here. I'll say a prayer for you today. Same thing back. When you can say those things, then to your point, you've taken everything you've worked for. It doesn't matter. I could die. I could go, something could happen to me tomorrow. I know that that legacy, which you're trying to build, I think it ultimately with your values, that legacy is going to live on because that that whole part being moving that dial from thoughts and actions to prayer, then that person knows that, okay, this person has my back 1,000%, and
Yeah.
this person has my back 1,000%. We got each other's back. We can go. We can do things now. Now, is it over? No. Obviously, you got to work at that every day.
Oh,
But to have that in place, I've never had that in place anywhere I've worked ever.
man, that's awesome. Like I always tell my business owner clients is like, it's not a business if you're not going to do a succession plan.
Yeah.
Like you own a job up until the point, and succession planning is extraordinarily difficult. And one of my clients does some of that, and it values at the end of the day, it's made or broken based upon shared value systems between the current owner and the future owner. If they don't mesh,
It isn't. No,
yeah,
no. It's hard. I say that I took over from my father. He just finally is starting to get out of the business. He didn't have a formal succession plan in place, and it's been hard.
oh yeah,
How do I, as somebody, ask for that? I can't ask for that. I've learned it's got to come from him, and he finally, in the last, I'd say last year, said, okay, I'm okay with you guys taking over. I'm okay with you finally. But it took, I mean, it takes you, to your point, it's not easy. Now, whether this be a family business, whatever, if it's going to be employee owned, I don't know the answers to all those
but
things.
it's always
But
really
you
hard.
start down that path. You have to, absolutely. It's a must.
Yeah, it's always like the most dangerous time is from founder to next CEO,
Yes.
right? Because the identity of that founder is so ingrained in the business.
To, to your point, probably the best move I made was making him going from CEO to giving him the title of founder. I said, "You are the founder. No one can ever take that away." So,
I've got my elbow. If you're listening to Audible, I'm kind of nudging his dad out of the way with my elbow.
exactly. But I think today it's a lost art, because tomorrow I could just say, oh, to hell with it. I'm just gonna sell.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be reactive and just, someone wants to give me money, sure, or whatever. And that's not. And I think too much of that happens too today. It's
yeah. I
too
think
easy.
people get tired.
Yeah, it's too
They,
easy.
they get tired. Like the problem is like adversity's coming. There's like it
Right.
just like I don't care what you believe. I do
Yeah.
care. Like all things being equal, the human experience is one of adversity eventually, like including dying, right? So adversity is coming, and the question that we all have to face, because it's our own lives, like through the great mystery, we have this consciousness, right? We've all got to decide how we're going to prepare for adversity, right? And that preparation is what will give you peace even if you fail,
Yeah.
right? Without preparation, trying hard doesn't bring peace when
Right.
you know you could have been better,
Right.
and it's huge. So last thing, you ready? So we got two
Yeah.
things.
All right.
One, I'm going to ask you the big question. And then number two, you got to let everybody know how they can find out, get them some more Brent Pohlman, right?
Okay.
You got to let them know where to find you. So let's start with the big question. The big question is this: what's one thing you would encourage someone that's listened this long? What's one thing that you encourage them about having a values-based mindset? What's one thing you would say?
I would say, if you haven't thought about having a values-based mindset, then look at yourself in the mirror and work on your self-care, because it's all about your self-care. And you have to have, if you're going to lead, you have to have it. If you don't have it, you're going to be a mess, and you're not going to be an effective leader. I can just tell you that. Without a values-based and self-care together, you got to take care of yourself. You got to understand yourself and be on your A game every day if you're going to be an effective leader. If you don't, I mean, I don't see that it's a non-negotiable in my life. You have to do those things.
There's a big difference between being able to swim and being a lifeguard.
Yeah.
Big difference. Like,
Mm.
because being a lifeguard means that you can deal with helping someone else swim,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Exactly.
You know,
Right.
the first
Right.
thing you tell lifeguards is don't let the person drown you too,
Exactly.
right? So, how do people find out some more about Brent? They can go to Omaha.
Yeah. MidwestLabs.com is our company, but obviously you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm open to networking. I know we see that all the time on LinkedIn. I'm not one of these. If I don't know you, I'm gonna ignore you. You can start there at LinkedIn. That's probably the best place. All the other social media sites, I'm just not. I'm not as active as I once was, but LinkedIn I think is more for professionals, and I just think I like that. I like that platform a lot because it does incorporate business. I'm a fan of business. I want to see growth in businesses. Facebook is just too much. There's too much. It's too much noise for me. And
Yeah,
so, but LinkedIn, MidwestLabs.com. That's who I am.
awesome, Brett. Well, brother, like I knew this was going to be great, and I was right. And I like being right because I'm an Ohio State fan. But
So, how many points are you going to give me?
yeah, probably 45.
I was going to say it's up to 45. Hey, shoot, I should take that. It's like
Yeah. I
25.
watched what Clemson did to Georgia Tech last week. That was just awful. 77-3. Like it was 57-0 in the first half. So I don't think it'll be that bad because Nebraska, unlike Georgia Tech, is not an awful school. So
We'll see what happens, but
yeah,
yeah, we'll see what happens Saturday. Let's see.
no, it'll be good. All right, my friend, be blessed. Really appreciate you coming on. And this will not be the last time we talk.
All right. Thanks, Mike. I really appreciate you giving the time. This has been great.